Alright, today we're going to create a graffiti picture. So we're going to start with our type tool. So let's drag that across there. Spell out your name. You can do it first, last name, whole name, capital letters, whatever you want to choose. Once you type it out, select the letters, choose a nice font. So go up to type, select font, and choose whatever font you think looks good. I'm going to use this Bauhaus 93. Okay, now I'm going to change my uh, tool from the type tool to the selection tool. I'm going to go back up to type, and I'm going to create outlines to change my letters into shapes instead of being um, just the type letters. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go object, and I'm going to ungroup those letters so then I can manipulate them individually. Alright, so one thing you might do, what we see in graffiti are a lot of bulgy letters a lot of times, so I'm going to maybe use my warp tool and warp my letters a little bit to give them more of a bubbly look. Actually, I might just use this bulge tool, kind of bulge out my letters. Alright, looks pretty good. Click OK. Okay, so whenever you warp the shape, you want to remember you want to expand the appearance of that shape. So go Object, Expand Appearance, and now I'm going to mess around with some of these letters. So I might put some curves on that. So I think maybe what I'll do is I'm going to draw a bar here, and I'm going to use Effect, and I'm going to arc that. Put a nice curve on there. Keep that at 0 and 0. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and expand the appearance of that shape, and I think I'll go ahead and maybe hook this onto my J here. Maybe I'll shrink this down a little bit. Okay, now what I'll do is I'll use my Pathfinder, and I'll unite those shapes together with my Pathfinder. Unite. Now that's one solid shape. I'll use my pen tool and switch it from the pen tool to the delete anchor tool, and I'm going to maybe delete a few of these anchor points so that it unites that a little bit better together. Maybe I'll take out one of those. Okay, it looks pretty good. Let's zoom in a little bit. Alright, looks like I got a little nub here. Get rid of that. Okay, looks pretty good. Alright, let's go ahead and work on the J here. Or not the J, but the A. I don't know, I think my A is probably okay. Maybe what I'll do is I'll unite the A and the R together. So I'm going to draw another bar here with my rounded rectangle tool. I'm going to use my warp tool, and I'm going to put an arc on it, and maybe I'll put my arc going in the other direction. And I'll click OK. And then whenever you warp a shape, you want to make sure you expand the appearance. So I'm going to go Object, Expand Appearance, and I'm going to take this little arced shape that I made, and I'm going to squeeze that in. And I'll might put my R over here. Okay. Now I'm going to select those three shapes. So I'm going to hit the A, hold my shift button on my keyboard, select the curved bar, and then I'll select the R, and then I'll use my Pathfinder tool, and I'm going to unite those three shapes together. And I'm going to use my delete anchor point, and I'm going to maybe take out a few of these points on there to better unite that together. Let's see. Whoop, don't want to take out that one. There we go. Looks pretty good. I'll use my direct selection tool, maybe adjust that a little bit. Okay, looks pretty good. Zoom in a little bit. I got my A and my R. I'm going to shrink those down. And I'll put them up here. So I adjust this J a little bit. Okay. Alright, let's say work on this E. And I think maybe what I'll do, so I'm going to put a curve coming out there. So let's go ahead and draw another bar with a rounded rectangle. I'll put an arc on there. Maybe I'll arc it the other direction. Let's click OK. And then I'm going to expand the appearance. So object, expand appearance. And I'll twist this around. Shrink that up a little bit. Okay, let's go ahead and, for the time being, I'm going to switch these so I can just see the outlines. There we go. I just see the stroke. So I'm going to send this part to the back. So I'm going to go Object, Arrange, and I'm going to send that to the back. Let's put in some fill color. So let's just do white for now. Okay, so I'm going to want this to hook up over here. Just that. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissor tool. So let's take the scissor tool and I'm going to snip off this part inside there, so then it will look like those pieces are united together. Let's maybe adjust that a little bit. Okay, let's take my direct selection tool, let's push that anchor point over a little bit. Okay, that looks good. And maybe I'll do something similar to my D here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw another rounded rectangle, and I'll use the warp effect, and I'll put an arc on that, and maybe this one I'll bend upwards, so click OK. And after you warp it, you want to expand the appearance, so Object, Expand Appearance, and let's go ahead and adjust this guy a little bit. If I go up or down, maybe we'll go down. We'll go down. That'll be fun. Okay. Now, let's send this guy to the back. Object, Arrange, and we'll send him to the back. And let's go ahead and take our direct selection tool, and I'm going to adjust the angles of that a little bit. Line these pieces up a little bit better. Adjust that a little bit. Okay. Now, let me zoom in a little bit. I'm going to take my scissor tool. Well, let me adjust this just a titch before I do that. Push that up just a titch. Okay, now I'm going to take my scissor tool, and I'm going to snip it over here, and I'm going to snip it over here. Then I'm going to select this part that I cut. If it'll let me. Maybe I'll have to snip that again. Alright, let's go snip here, and a snip here. hit backspace, delete that. Select this part that I snipped and delete that. Okay. Now take my direct selection tool. Let's line that up a little better. Okay, there we go. Alright, so now I'm going to take these things, I'm going to go object, and I'm going to group them together, which I need to do the same thing with my E. So I'm going to select those two pieces, I'm going to go object, and I'm going to group them together. So then, oops, let's take my selection tool, since these are grouped together, and I'll push this up here. Let's go ahead and throw some fill color in there. Alright, let me bring this E to the front. So I'm going to go object range, and I'm going to bring that to the front so that it comes in front of the A and the R. And let's bring this D over, and I'm going to maybe rotate that a little bit. There you go. Might rotate that just a little bit more. Maybe shrink that just a titch. Okay, that looks pretty good. Alright, now I've got my letters pretty well how I want them. I'm going to select everything, drag my cursor over, select everything, and I'm going to go ahead and group those all together. Alright, so now I want to add some color to this. So let's start with just a plain fill color, and I'm going to may throw a gradient on here. So I'm going to drag this yellow inside there, delete that black. I'm going to click on the middle here to add another point of color, and I'll throw some orange, and I'll double click this last one and throw some red in here. And I'm going to maybe change the angle because I want to go from top to bottom instead of from side to side. So let's switch that to a 90-degree angle. And that looks pretty good. Okay. Now, what I'll do is maybe I'm going to draw a triangle to go behind this. So I'll just draw a square here. And I'm going to take my delete anchor point, take out one of those corners, and bring this over to the middle. May change the color. And I'm going to send that to the back object, arrange send to back. Now I can adjust that behind here. Maybe I'll go ahead and put a drop shadow on here. So I'll go effect, and I'm going to go stylize and drop shadow. Let's hit preview so I can see what's going on. I'll go normal. Yeah, I don't want to have a blur on there. Let's offset that a little bit. And okay, it looks pretty good. Move this over just a titch. Move that up just a titch. And maybe I'll do the same, add a drop shadow to my letters too. So let's go ahead and we'll apply a drop shadow, and it'll be the same as what I just did. Okay, that looks pretty good. Alright, so, if you want to add more things, you can do whatever, but I'm going to go ahead and call that good for the sake of time. And what I'm now going to do is I'm going to open up Photoshop, if it'll open up. Okay, so earlier I copied a picture of a brick wall to my desktop, so I'm going to go ahead and open up that brick wall picture. So here we go. Let's open that up. Alright, now what I'm going to do, let's go back into Illustrator, and I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to copy it. So I hit Control C, or you could go edit, copy, but I'm just going to hit Control C. Now I'm going to go over to Photoshop and I'm going to hit Control V, and it'll ask me if I want to do it as a smart object, and my answer is okay. And there I have that on there. I'm going to adjust the size of that so that it fills up the wall a little bit better. Let's hit enter. Just thinking about it. There we go. Alright, so I think this brick wall is a little too red for the rest of this, so I'm going to maybe adjust this color a little bit. So I'm going to select my background layer, and I'm going to go image adjustments, and I'm going to do let's see, vibrance. Let's go image adjustments, vibrance, and I'm going to turn down the saturation a little bit and the vibrance a little bit, so it's a little more gray, a little less bright. So then that will help to pop out my picture on top of it. So click OK. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my graffiti name, and I'm going to turn down the opacity a little bit. So I'm going to go over here, click on opacity, and I'm going to turn it down just a titch so I can see a little bit of the brick wall behind it. And that way you can maybe see some of the texture of the bricks on your painting. So then it looks like it's actually sitting on top of a brick wall and not just some picture that you stuck on there, but it's a part of the picture, like it's legitimately there. Alright, so that should really do it. You decide how you want to do your name, how you want to decorate it. You might look at some examples of some graffiti or things like that, but yeah, it's that easy. So design it in Illustrator and then finish it in Photoshop, and you'll be good to go.